Good evening, anybody. Welcome back to Fat Man Paints. It's Saturday night. No, it's not. It's Friday night. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? I've done my chores. I've dropped off my kids at band, picked them up. Wife's not feeling well. It's time for a cold one. Time to finish off our Mawloc here. So with some luck tonight, we should be pretty much ready for basing. I should be able to get almost everything done for the figure itself. And that'll allow us to get into the more fun basing, and then, you know, we're very much on the home stretch then. Right. I'm going to start, I know no one's here. I'm going to start by painting a couple of layers of black on the claws. I'm going to move up through some greys, and I'm going to focus on the mouth, then the teeth, and then the eyes. So I just kind of work my way through this fella and get things done. So yeah, I'm just going to get started. I'm just going to hit up the black on the claws and put a base layer on. Wait from there. Using black Templar contrast for the base of the black. It's thin. And I'll put a couple of thin coats around the model itself, and then I can build up on that, very much as I did with the chin and the armour as well. So I'll put some black on here first, then I will put a layer of flesh. It's not even on here, I'm not paintless, is it? Flesh Terrazord contrast, so I'll get that in a moment. Anyway, let's get the black going first, and let's start the process. Like I said, with a bit of luck, I should have this fella finished by the end of today, and in time to do some basing. Getting really close to getting the fella sorted. Right. I hope everyone had a good Friday. Hope your weekend is promising. Maybe get a bit of a break, do things you want to do, spend time with people you want to spend time with. Avoid work. Recharge for another lovely week in the core. Still need to decide what model I'm going to pick up next after this Mawloc's done. I'm going to go for another one of the big boys at the same time as paint these Gene Stealers, which I've got primed beside me. Just kind of focus on the big boy when I'm in between stages. Just do a little bit of progress on the Gene Stealers. Use those to knock down the outstanding number. I'm working on the big fella, and the big fella's there. It's always the fun ones. There's more centerpiece models on the table. Right, so I'm going to get up under these claws now. Because these can't be seen very much. Under them doesn't have to be particularly perfect, just enough to take off any residual white from the primer. doing any particular detail painting on them, that's for sure. Can't even see them. Okay, that's the outside set done, at least the first layer of it. Then for the inside bit, it's a little more tricky to get to. I have dug out some natural light photography lamps that I had sitting locked up in the garage, so I've set those up this evening, and hopefully in the next couple of days I'll be able to set up a light box as well and start taking some pictures of the 35% that I've finished. Photos up to show progress. That's not tonight's job. Tonight's job is drinking beer, cheap lager, making progress on Mawloc, so we can mark him as done. Too fussed about getting underside of these claws, same on the outside, because we can't see them. It means we don't have to paint them. Those first ones. Let's get the tongue done before I forget to do it. Bob spiky thing at the end. Work on these. Can do the pincers last, so let's work up these claws on the side of the body. Paint these on, it almost feels like I'm doing nail varnish on this thing. Just finishing off the ends of the bits and pieces. It was a bit odd. as I go through these last stages, it's also finishing off these little bits that are otherwise kind of unpainted or undetailed, and it just helps finish off the model. I don't do too many of them. It is the little kind of detail painting, the claws, the mouth, the teeth and stuff like that really kind of set off the model in the end. I think I've said before as well, the base as well is it's almost like the framing of the finished figure, putting a nice base, a nice frame around the picture. Just really helps sets it off, so it's worth spending as much time on the base, comparatively speaking, as it is on the rest of the figure. It's only my view. My view matters. I'm also painting these little kind of little barbs that they've got on the back of the arms, claws at the front of them. So I'm going to slowly work my way up the side of the body. I'm going to paint in any overpaint that I put on the claws before from the chitin areas. Just black those back out. As I said as well, my paint process is very forgiving. If you make a mistake on one layer or one process, you can easily correct it in the next. So any overpaint we've got from the body, any overpaint we had from the chitin work, it's all just getting painted over now, so any mistake, any overspill, it's gone. That's just covered it up, and nobody will ever know. I'll bring you guys if you saw it. With this big beastie, he has a lot of claws. A lot. Because the paint's thin, I am going to have to go through this at least twice to make sure we get them all. But hey, we wanted to be here all night, didn't we? One thing I did manage to do today, after a week of procrastination, is make a nice batch of pea and ham soup. So last Sunday, cooked a nice gammon, and today mix that in with a lot of peas, butter, stock, spring onions. Now I have several litres pea and a ham soup, so once that's cooled down I will be freezing it. I'll do me for lunch for a couple of weeks, unless my daughter and wife get there first, which is not unheard of for this family favourite. And tomorrow's joy will be making a nice bolognese. Nice rich bolognese. I'm looking forward to that. Quite enjoy cooking. The problem is with modern life, there's not enough time. Everything's so hectic. There comes whatever you've just got time for. We try to avoid processed foods as much as we can and stick to fresh veg. Just the nod to being healthy. Considering the fact that I'm particularly fat, probably the only thing it is a nod. But hey. Refresh. It kind of annoys me when it's a bit far away. The base to be able to probably get some purchase to keep my paintbrush steady. I need the 2 hands for that. Stuff to in these tricky areas. So much opportunity. A wayward brush. Paint over what you've already done. Right, okay. Oh, Mr. Claw. When I first built this Mawloc and stood it up, it was like you really wouldn't want to see one of these life-size rear its head somewhere in the garden if you're digging up. It would be quite a thing to run away from, even at this size. Compare it to how big it's actually meant to be. It's quite the horror. Right. Not too bad there. Let's go here. And we'll give the brush a proper clean after this. And we'll come to the back side. And rinse and repeat again. God, there's I'm sure you can see there's a right little sticky bit just here that looks very claw-like. Right, good enough. Right, let's just close this for the moment. Closed pots don't spill. Let's clean the brush, let's get all that horrible contrast medium in pigment out of it. Let's really go up to the furrow there. Need to get that out. Keep the brush sensible. I have managed to rig up a secondary monitor a bit close to where I paint, so I can actually see when people chat now. So it's been a bit tricky the past few days. It was all the way over there, and because I need to take my glasses off to see what I'm doing when I'm painting, all I've got when I look at that old big screen up there is just a big blurry blob. Which isn't going to help anybody. There we go, that's much better. Ah! Good job that was a clean brush. Whoops. Right, I'm going to work my way up the next side. These little bits on the bottom of the mandibles next. I don't think there's anything on the back. The standard claws there. I'm going to do the tail next. I'm going to rinse and repeat. Before I do any of that, time for a top up. I've also got the dog out for his wee. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Right, dog's refusing to come in, so ho hum. It's cheap, it's cooking lager, but it's very, very cold. Right. I think the dog is more interested with outside than inside. So I'll have to go and get him in a moment. In the meantime, let's carry on. So I'm going to go up this side, mouth and tail, and then we're going to repeat it all again to get a nice even layer of black over all of these claw areas. I've been trying to encourage my son to start painting so that we can get through these things quicker. I've already been explaining to him that it's very much like painting by numbers, except instead of numbers it's 3D shapes. Certainly the really modern Games Workshop stuff, very well defined in the areas and what's what on a model. So in many ways all you need to do is just paint the bits until you come to an edge. Be consistent in the way you approach that bit across the model in the army. It makes it easy, but still a little reluctant to do that. He's quite happy on the building. We'll happily go through all of those. That's the pile of grey. Shame that we've got that all need painting, but here comes the actual painting. Is lacking a little bit of confidence. We're going to work on that one. Oh, and here the dog wants to come in. Right, we just go and close the door as the dog's managed to open it and come in. Paint dry on the brush. 30 seconds. Go away, Henry. Here we go. Right, dog sorted. One more chore done for the evening. Next up for the next 30 minutes is our Warlock. Then it's kids off to bed. Then more Mawloc. More Mawloc. It said as a stop at the top of the stream with luck. Perseverance may more than luck. We may actually finish the model itself by the end of tonight, which means that we can then move on doing the basing. I quite like doing the basing, and believe it or not, it involves dry brushing again and again and again. Also use a few technical paints, the Games Workshop technical paints, which are quite nice. Quite like that crackled dry earth paint. I've got a couple of variations that I use depending on the base type. There we go. First claw done. Where did we go for on that one? Right. So yeah, so tonight with a bit of perseverance we'll have the claws done. Once these are done, quite quick activity to move on to the mouth. Paint the teeth. Steady nerve to dop in the eyes. For some of the Tyranids I've done, the eyes are just so small to distinguish from the actual model itself. I've not bothered, but certainly on this fella it's quite large, so it's quite easy to actually get a paintbrush in the slot, get that paint in, and there we go. Hey Robsco, how are you doing this evening? I hope you're good. I hope your Friday has treated you well. You've got a lot of fun lined up for Saturday and Sunday. Or if you're working, I hope it's not going to be too bad. For me, I've got a load of kid ferrying around. Grocery, food shopping, cooking, cleaning. Hopefully in the evening we're painting. Let's see how we get through today first though. Like 4 o'clock start this morning was successful in the end, so I'm glad that's over and done with, because that was a horror. Very tired in the afternoon. May have had a kip, but that may also be because I'm old. An afternoon kip when I'm old is quite a lovely thing to do. So Robsco, while I'm here, is just kind of finishing off this Mawloc that I've been painting for the past few days. We're very much on the home straight of this fellow now. We've done all the carapace work, we've done the body work, we're really now just sort of pulling out the last details. So tonight I'm going to be working on the claws, the mouth, so the inside of the mouth and the teeth, the eyes, and then the figure is pretty much done at that point. Still have the base to finish, of course. but the figure itself will be table ready for me. What I'm doing now is just blacking in all the kind of claw or champy bits. Just a thin black. I'll be going over them again in a moment just to cover them all over. Then I'll be running a, I think it's Flesh Terrace Red contrast over them to just kind of give a little more depth to the black, offset that just very stark matte black that they are. Then I'll be running some varying increasingly light greys along the end of the claws to just kind of try and highlight the fact that they're sharp, so the edges and the ends to points. That's my fun for the evening. You building anything, Robsco, or is it you kind of models, 40k, Age of Sigma? When I painted my Trigon it felt a lot easier than this, but I didn't have all these kind of crazy antenna type things all over the model, so they didn't get in the way. Right, have I? No, I've missed one up there. Buried. Yeah. We'll get to that bit now. Right. Those buggers of claws stuck in the corner there. Oh, missed a little bit here. I think just a little bit touch up from that carapace over paint. And then I've got the spiky tail to do. And a bit of a rinse and repeat and go through them again. Then on to the next stage of this one. How are we doing? Right, beer o'clock. Bit of a clean, let's get that dry pigment out of there. I'll do a proper clean after I've done the tail. We'll get a bit of brush soap in there. Get all that dry pigment out of here. Right. business end of this fella, or the other business end. I think the mouth is business enough. Still trying to debate what I'm going to do next, because we're getting close to finishing this one off. So I need to start thinking about what I'm going to prep next, because when I varnish him, put a sealant on him, because I've kind of had to clear a space in the garage and get all that sorted and get my mask on and that for spraying. I might as well do a primer as well. So I've got a choice. I'm going to build some of the big guys out of the Leviathan box. So I'm not sure whether I should do the Screamer Killer or the Neuro Tyrant in its little marker floaty brain things. Got any preference what you'd like to see? Let me know. I tried setting up a poll, but apparently I don't have enough people following me or some kind of crap, so I'm just going to ask. If you've got preference, just lob it in the chat and I'll take it from there. So normally on my painting process I kind of follow the same thing for all of the models I'm painting here, which is when I get about to this stage of painting a model, or you know, painting a large model like this, or at this stage of if I'm doing a batch painting of the kind of the battle line or the troops, I start thinking about what's next on the order of build and paint, and then I'll get hold of the model. I'll give it a once over, make sure that when I built it I did get rid of all those seam lines, I did fill any of those unseemly gaps, I have drilled my barrels, etc. And then I will decorate the base a little bit, so I'll take the opportunity to glue on some skulls or some larger stones or other bits of decoration. I'll then give it a good rinse in some very mildly warm soapy water. Just use a bit of washing up liquid or dishwasher soap, dishwashing soap, and just put it in a bowl, submerge the figure for 10-15 minutes, and then agitate it around, move it up and down quite a bit, let the water get all over the model, lift off all of that grease, all that release agent from the moulding process, all that grease that I've accidentally put on it when I've been handling it in the build. I give it a good rinse of clean cold water, and then I'll attach it to a handling board, and most of the time I just use a bit of wood like this. Stick the model will mostly be on the base. I stick the base onto the handling board, and that way I don't need to touch the model ever again when I go through the painting process, or at least I can avoid touching it as much as possible. And then once that's all done, once it's dry, once it's attached, I might do a little more work on the base with some of the texture paints, some initial work on those to help add a bit more detail, a bit more interest into the base area. But then when I'm happy with it, it'll go into prime. I tend to prime with a rattle can. I use Tamiya fine surface primer for my Tyranids. I've been priming in white because that's the base that I need for my body bits. I find it a really nice prime. Right, that's that bit done. Right, the brush is a bit manky, let's give it a proper clean. So I'll then prime with a Tamiya fine surface primer white. Probably give it a couple of goes. just kind of two primes. So give it over once, let it dry for 4 hours or so, come back and give it another second prime just to make sure it's all done, and then let that set fully overnight before coming in and starting on the model. I follow a pretty standard approach for all of the Tyranids I've been doing. I do the carapace first, then do the body. This fella here, I finished up the body yesterday. Then I'm painting the details, the claws, the mouth, brains, tubing, wings, those kind of fleshy bits. When I'm happy with that, I do the base. Then it gets sealed, and again I'll use a rattle can, and again I use Tamiya. I'll use a Tamiya TS80 rattle can, which is flat matte varnish. It's very matte, really seals everything in. So it keeps the model all the paint in. So when you're handling it on the games and that, you're not going to do any damage to it. You're not going to knock any paint off, as long as you keep your hands relatively grease and dirt free when you're playing. The model should survive. Yeah, rinse and repeat with the next model, with the next group of models, whatever that may be. Right. What are we doing for time? Right. Guess we've got 10 minutes before I need to kick him up to bed. Just agitate the paint again. So I put 2 little steel ball bearings into the paint pot to help shake it around. These ones are 5mm diameter, and I've got a, you can't quite see it there, here we go. Got a vortex mixer to help shake up the paints. Some of the paints, certainly not Tamiya, certainly the Citadel Colour, Citadel miniature stuff are fucking awful. You need all the help you can get to get them in a state where you can use them. I use a lot of Vallejo as well. These are much better, but like I said the other night, there's a couple of Games Workshop hit stores, one near where I work, one not too far, a 10-20 minute drive away from where I live. So if I want to paint a particular colour, it's so much easier to go and buy one of these than sort of jump on the internet and hurdle through Amazon, through eBay, through various model shops to find particular ones that they've got. So I've ended up with a lot of Citadel paints, but they are bloody awful. There's a great range of colour, but the paint pots, terrible. I find the paints dry out quite quickly. Right, I've missed a bit, haven't I? I've just realised we've got these kind of tusk areas at the mouth. Right, let's do them then. And then we'll start at the bottom. And we'll go and put a second layer of black on all the bits we've done. And then they should be ready for some detail work, some feathering with some lighter greys, and a little bit of dry brush, a very light kind of bluey grey, just to kind of give that illusion of sharpness and just kind of just let catch the light. If you watch any of the streams before, you'll find that I really like my dry brushing. I find it a very effective, controllable technique, because I'm nowhere near good enough to do proper highlighting lines like the heavy metal style, so I kind of cheat, and I kind of cheat with a dry brush with a couple of layers of increasing brightness and colour. You can get a really nice blend. I don't need a wet palette to do it. I don't need any skill. It takes a bit longer, but because I've got these great big thick sausage fingers, I find it an awful lot easier. And to be fair, when I first started painting miniatures when I was a kid, pretty much was the technique that everybody used. It's the one I learnt. It's kind of the one that I've stayed with, even if I've refined the personal process a little bit. Right. In terms of armies, Tyranids are our main focus. We do have a whole bunch of Space Marines that I've kind of accidentally collected. What I mean by that is, you know, there's a whole bunch of Space Marines that came with the Leviathan set. When my son first started getting into the modelling, and we bought I think it was the 8th edition No Fear and the Dark Imperium model sets. So we've got some Death Guard sitting around, Chaos Space Marines, but also a lot of just regular Space Marines that we just happen to collect. So finally we've decided to start painting all those. We're building those as salamanders. Good Space Marines. So at some point, probably nearly when I'm dead, we will have finished our Tyranids, and we'll make sure that those Space Marines get done as well. Well, I say that, as we all know, I'm sure there'll be more Tyranid purchases. I'm sure that backlog will never ever end. There will always be more of the Horde, more of the Swarm that needs to be painted. It is never ending after all. We consume, we strip, and we move on to the next place. And we rinse and repeat. You know, it's a bit like how it feels painting 250 Tyranids. Right, let's just touch in a little bit under here, on the back of these. Most models don't have quite as many pointy spiky bits as the Trigon, sorry, the Mawloc. Normally this stage of the painting is a lot quicker, but you know, that's what makes this fella exciting. Interesting paint. I'm just painting underneath these now. You won't see them when it's finished, but there's just a little bit of white there, it just might catch. Just give it a brush, a little refresh there. What we'll do now, we'll go on the inside, then we'll work up on the right hand side, left hand side, right hand side, claws, mouth, tail, and just lots of repeats in the way back that we've done. You can open it, daughter, yes. It's great having kids sometimes. They are wonderful assistants. Anyway, my lovely daughter's just brought me a top up. She's going to even pour it for me. Fantastic. And probably tell me at the same time that I drink too much.
Yes, you do.
Apparently, yes, I do. She is not wrong. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your streaming.
Good night. Good night, sweetie. See you tomorrow, sweetie. Yeah. It's because it's Fat Man Paints.
Night.
Good night, sweetie. Right. One child down. Once ago. He should be going soon, but I think he's playing Vampire Survivors, Vampire something. Apparently incredibly addictive game, which was designed and built by people who are more renowned for building gambling machines. Explains lots why it's a very addictive game. You know what they're doing. Bit like our plastic crack, eh? Right. Just go through and make sure these are all sorted now. Just trying to see if there's any white I can see that needs a bit more. Here and there. Right, there we go. So that's the tail bit done. Hopefully you can kind of see a little bit. Move up this side of the body now. Come all the way back round. Once I've got this done, I'll be running another contrast paint over it. I'll be doing Flash Terror's Red, which is very similar to how I did the carapace. It won't be exactly the same. It'll be a bit of the less of the Flash Terror's Red going over. Won't be a Caribou Crimson wash in there either, but it will just help give a more interesting layer into the red. And will also just help tie it a little more into the chitin that we've already painted. Take it a bit away from just base black into the same kind of colours, the deep reds and the light reds that we've got from the armour area and the model. Just help tie it all in together, just make it look a bit more consistent across the model as a whole. I'm talking like I know what I'm doing. I'll make it up as I go along, as you Cure should do as well. Very punk rock. I will update the stream info at the end with all the paints that I've used and where. But, you know, they're not uncommon colours. Certainly today, blacks, greys, pinks, purples, standard stuff in a palette. Quite fortunate, I do have quite a lot of paints in various shades and brands. My background is really scale model making, you know, like tanks and aircraft. My preference there is the 1/35th scale armour. But just before COVID, 3-4 years ago, God, however long it is now, my son went to a Games Workshop store with his local scout troop. He did that drug dealer introduction into plastic crack, and got everybody interested in what they were doing. This was towards the end of the 8th edition, I think, not long before 9th came out. And yeah, so since then it's been kind of hooked. Loves playing the game, doesn't mind building the figures, really doesn't like painting. So because of kind of my history in sort of more the scale model stuff, I luckily had a whole bunch of tools that we needed. So all the side clippers, the right glues, sanding sticks, all that kind of model building material, and the kind of the experience of putting these things together. And so I was quite lucky that I kind of knew what we were doing when we got into this at the start. It did ease that bit of the process quite considerably when we first got into the building of these things. And I have to admit as well, I was really impressed with the actual level of quality of the kits themselves, how well they went together, how well designed they were, and the level of detail as well. Back when I was a real little lad, so I remember fondly the early 80s, taking my little bit of pocket money, going to the Games Workshop stores in the Manchester Arndale Centre, finding a whole bunch of those little white metal pewter figures, buying as many as I could, shove into my pockets that my pocket money support, coming home and playing Dungeons and Dragons with them, and using those. And I was always amazed at the mould makers for those and the sculptors, but I always felt something was a bit lacking in them, and I found it quite difficult to paint. But that maybe was just 12-year-old me, didn't really know what he was doing. Sean Corra. But certainly the new plastic, when I say new, the plastic Games Workshop kits these days, they're absolutely, from a build and design perspective, I think they're absolutely wonderful. Really great kits, outrageously overpriced. It's not about the model itself and the complexity of that, it's all about the value on the battlefield, I think. This Games Workshop is pricing model. We all seem happy enough to follow it, so I'm not quite sure who's the fool. But at the same time, they do find it a very relaxing, therapeutic hobby. Sitting here painting. And since I started this Twitch stream a couple of weeks ago, talking to myself, it's a bit odd. I don't talking at people, it's a bit more like radio. I think one of the reasons I set up this and decided to do this is because I just wanted to kind of get a bit of motivation to go through the backlog. I wanted to finish these things. So if I can finish my backlog of Warhammer stuff, it means I can start on my backlog of scale models. Which, well, similar, or a bit of a different propositioning build. There's a bit of nervous pain there. Right, how's that looking? Okay, I think I've done its left side. Let's get that paint clean. Let's off the brush. I might need to go and get rid of some of this beer. I need to hustle a kid up to bed, and then we'll work on the other side. Let's close the paint, because a closed paint pot can't be spilt, even accidentally. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Right, back. Child hassled, bladder emptied. Back to Mr. Mawloc. Right, next up we're going to work up the fella's right hand side, basically just touching all of those. Then we'll do the bits around the mouth, then the tail, then we'll be on to the next paint and the next layer of the process. So let's start again. I think it is one of the chores of a certainly Warhammer army, that everything should be consistent and the same. So it does start getting very repetitive. I guess if you're running an orc army, and you've got a lot more scope for variety and individuality, but that at the same time just ends up meaning that the painting takes much longer. You know, in terms of armies, really quite like our Tyranid choice. We've got our accidental Space Marine army. We have a Tau army. It's still sitting around a little bit, and once we make good headway into the Space Marines, those Tau fellows will start getting some deserved love and attention. I do have a soft spot for orcs and the wah. Necrons look cool. My lad at one point muttered, and I do say muttered, about 1,000 Sun Army. No way am I going to paint those things. They are, I suppose, without really looking into it, but they look to be way too difficult to paint. Way too tricky. But luckily, we don't have to get there yet, because we've got our Xeno army, Tyranids, and then we've got our Space Marine army to counter them, and we've got the greater good to balance things out. It's going to be October in a couple of days' time. Do you wonder where the month of September vanished to? From the UK, we had our last public holiday. God, when was it now? 20-something of August? It feels like it was yesterday. I've got no idea where the month's vanished to. We know it'll be Halloween, bonfire night, Christmas. Probably I'll be moaning about, oh, it's already got to summer. Probably been old. Time flies. Right, nearly done on this side now as well. This second layer is really just kind of touching in any bits where I missed and just giving a consistent layer and colour through the bit of the model. You don't need to bother with a third layer. There's going to be no advantage of doing that. sure the areas we need to do a little bit more of. Okay, I think that looks fine. Got all the bits. Right, let's do the mouth bits, tail bits, then we can pop this paint away with a brush of good clean, and then move on to the next layer for these parts, which is pretty much, unfortunately, painting the same pieces again with just a slightly different, well actually a radically different colour, but this black on one of the teeth, but that's not a problem. Because when we come to do the teeth, I will be starting from scratch. We'll be doing a couple of layers of relatively thick paint on them. It doesn't matter too much if the paint is not super thin, because we are building up layer and texture. The other side's going. We get to do the tail. So see, we've had no preference for the next models. I just try and do. I fancy the Screamer Killer. It looks really interesting to paint. It's a big model as well, so it's nice to get some of those centerpiece models done. And at the same time, my lad's quite interested in having the Neuro Tyrant done, because I think that fits more in with his army list. So we'll see which wins. I'm tempted to. I may end up just doing both. I'll certainly prep the bases, check the models. Good for the paint process. Prime them both at the same time, I guess. There's no harm in that. And there we go. Right. Onto the tail again. Just another layer or two on here just to make sure it's the right base colour. The rest of the painting for the claws, spiky bits. also once again have to apologise for my terrible camera and rubbish angles. Kind of the best I can do on my budget. The DSLR camera is so old, I'm trying to get it to integrate with anything is particularly difficult. It's not geared for being anything other than a camera. It does have a video feature, but you can't get rid of anything on the display. So if you're using it as kind of a live streaming camera, you've got a whole bunch of on-screen clutter that's possibly more distracting than just a bit of a blur, a bit of a fixed angle that we have to put up with this fella. But never mind, you know. At some point I might get a new camera. Can't justify it yet. Maybe. I don't have any kids to support directly because they're all off earning their own money in today's economy. Right. Might be able to save a bit to treat myself to a new bit of tech. I'm going to hold my breath, mind. Right. Quite happy with how that tail area is spread out now. I've got that all blocked in around here. There we go. I'm going to put a little bit more just around the mandible bit. They just need a little touch more just to darken them off. Right, let's give it a once over. Make sure I'm happy with all of that. I can't see any unpainted bits. That will do. Right. Close paint pot. Can't be a knocked over paint pot. Hey Zombie Casey. Thanks for joining again. How are you doing this evening? Hope all is well. Cheers. He's getting there. We're on the last stages now. We're going to get the rest of these claw bits sorted out. And once those claw bits are done, we're going to detail the mouth. And when the mouth's done, it's onto the base. Yeah, sorry, it was last night. I had to stop because I had to get up at 3:45 to do some real life work stuff. So yeah, it was a bit unfortunate you joined just as I was ending. But tonight, I'm finishing this little fucker. I am going through and I'm going to get it sorted. So he's going to be done. Well, not the base, but the figure. It is, oh shitty, it's 11:30. I do have to go out and pick up some kids at 10 o'clock in the morning, but we've got plenty of time, and I have a fridge full of cheap cooking lager to keep me occupied and entertained as I go through and finish this little fella. But yeah, so I've been working on him for most of the week. Carapace first, body next. Good night, Joe.
Good night.
He's coming along quite nicely. I'll just get this brush clean. Get rid of that pigment. I'm going to go and get another beer. And we'll do the next layer of the claws. Right, it looks fine. Bollocks, not again. It's a good job it was a clean brush. Yeah, maybe. Right, back in a moment. Yeah, not quite on purpose, more of a problem of being old. I think that is. Right, what am I looking for next? Right. Luckily no harm done. Right. Next up I'm going to put a layer of contrast flesh terror red all on the black stuff. As I said before, it's just the idea is just now to lift up a little bit of the that black, make it less stark, blend it in a bit with the rest of the model. Bit of a spin. Sounds so odd. Oh. This is where it goes all fucking horribly wrong. There we go. Games Workshop paints, eh? Right. I'm going to approach the same order before, around the bottom, around the inside, on his left side, on his right side, around the head, tail, done. Let's go. No time like the present. I'm only just doing one layer of this across these claws. I mean, it'd probably be quite tricky to see when I Rathalas. No, I don't actually know what Rathalas is. I have to admit, I'm a bit ignorant on that. It's an actual, genuine insect. We randomly came up with this approach for our bugs, Lad and I, after just looking at lots of different posts of what people had dared, pick some colours we liked and then try to figure out how to get there. that one. Oh wow! That is very, very similar, isn't it? The claws. I was purely accidental. Absolutely, totally accidental. Happy coincidence. Absolutely, totally accidental. I've never played the game. I know the game, but I've never played it. Fantastic. No. Post the link. So, interaction's better than listening to me prattle on about bollocks for a couple of hours. It's much more entertaining. No, that was very, very accidental. We went for something we thought looked quite nice in terms of a carapace, something that looked interesting for the body, and then I kind of just chose colours that I thought would then be complementary in terms of the claws and the other bits. So happy coincidence. Happy coincidence for a Friday night. Hey, welcome back. I caught a bit of your stream earlier, Mr. Small Parts. Couldn't stick for long. I needed to nip out and pick up the kids, but it was looking pretty good. I think you were doing some Blood Bowl figures. How's it going? I'm going to be here for a few hours. Hopefully. We are finishing this big boy today. Problem is, Mr. Smallpot sounds a bit rude. I'm not trying to be disparaging. I'm sure everything's okay. So yes, tonight I've decided I'm going to finish the painting of this guy. So the claws, the mouth, be ready to do basing hopefully tomorrow. So what I've done so far, I've finished all the kind of the body yesterday. I'm just working on the claws now. So I've painted them all black. Now putting a Flesh Terrors red wash over them just to give them some colour. Tighten a bit more to the model. Thank you. I'm quite pleased with how the fella's coming along. The skin works quite well. It's not overly complex. And I think overall it looks really quite nice. And one day I'll actually take a proper photo of this. I was saying before, I found my nice day colour light bulbs and lighting bits and pieces. I'm going to try and get my light box set up sooner rather than later and start taking some photos so you can actually see what I've done rather than try and guess from this rubbishy webcam that I'm running. It may not be complex. It seems to take me for bloody ever. It's just a lot of layers and a lot of dry brushing rather than kind of wet palettes and edge highlighting and stuff. I'm not that patient, and I'm not that much of an artist. So I kind of rely on process and techniques, tools to help. And because I'm a bit messy, each step in the kind of the approach, I can fix any issues I do in the ones before. So if I do the carapace first, I overpaint, I can clear that out when I do the body. If I make some mistakes on the body, I can overpaint when I do them on the claws, etc. So yeah. I built my own light box years and years ago out of some PVC tubing and some kind of tracing paper and stuff, but it disintegrated, and I have bought a nice set of lights to go with it, which have got their own inbuilt softening, so I don't need so much of the box itself, but I just need somewhere to put the kind of the backing paper up and hang that up, so you can get that nice kind of curved effect to take the photos across. But I need to find space to put it all up. I've been kind of kicking the kids away from bits and pieces where they have. So maybe over the weekend, tomorrow, Sunday, I'll get some progress on that, and then finally get some worthwhile photos done, which don't rely on my potato phone and a rubbishy webcam. Right, how are we doing? A couple more claws to go on this side. Stuck in the corner. So originally, when I built my light box, it was to help to help capture some photos of the scale models I was building at the time. So it made a huge difference. You're right on the capturing things with some soft diffuse lighting, some kind of the infinite wall behind it, so that you don't have those kind of lines. It was well worth putting together, and it made quite a difference. So in the modelling club I was in at the time, I used to kind of wheel my DIY contraption over to some of the meets every couple of weeks. We used to have a bit of a queue, and I used to kind of go through and photograph everybody's models for them. And it did really help with the photography of them quite a bit. Brush needs a bit of clean. Starting to feel a bit sticky. It's a normal thing with contrast paints. They're interesting mix of stuff. Just a little bit back there. Right, I think we've captured the left side is all done now. Time to move on to the right hand side. Yeah, I've got, what was it, 70, 80 Tyranids, something like that. I need to go and photograph and put together and actually try and get some decent photos of them. I've tried with my mobile phone. While it's a reasonable phone and stuff, it's not so great. But hey, Bunker, how you doing? We're all good here. It's Friday night. Kids are in bed. Wife's in bed. I've got beer. Got company. Painting models. What could be better, eh? Right. Claws on the left hand side. Now once I've got this layer of red down, I'm just going to go through kind of some increasingly lighter greys on here just to kind of catch the claws a bit. And then hopefully after that, the mouth. I may do a little bit on the base. And then that would be it for tonight. So I'm planning a couple more hours, I think, tonight. I want to get this fella nearly complete so we can start planning the next build, the next paint. I was asking before, I can't put a poll apparently because I don't have enough followers, and I've only been doing this a couple of weeks, so I've got no idea what I'm meant to be doing, but I'm not sure what to do next. So my lad fancies a Neuro Tyrant from the Leviathan set, but I'm quite partial to doing the Screamer Killer. It looks quite fun. So I don't know if anybody has any particular thoughts about what would be next for kind of the big fellas, big model to do. I do have a whole bunch of Gene Stealers here which I'll be working through slowly, but Screamer Killer, Neuro Tyrant, any thoughts? Clean. Sitting on the fence, I see. Yeah, that is true. Small parts, if it becomes a chore, you don't enjoy it, you don't do a good job. And you're absolutely right on that one. I think in which case it's probably, despite the kids' protestations, it'll be the Screamer Killer. I just really quite like the sculpt on that. He's big as well. He's a little smaller than this fella, but quite large at the same time. And with my fading capability, it's it'll be easier to paint. I think what I will do, I will prep both of them. Get them clean and ready. I'll prime them both at the same time, so at least I've got to make some progress on both if I hit a bit of a wall with the Screamer Killer. In many ways, what I'm kind of trying to avoid doing is the Horde. I have so many termagants to paint. sneaking suspicion they're going to be very much last. And part of my problem is I paint them in exactly the same way. I paint the big fellas exactly the same steps, same colours, same process. Might skip the odd layer or two in the colour build up in that, but overall it's still pretty much the same process. It can take a while. It's not quite streamlined for the smaller fellas. What have I missed? Under. Right. Oh. There we go. Yeah, it makes sense. Tyranids are my lad's sort of kind of primary army, so when it was all announced, getting the Leviathan box was a bit of a no-brainer. So we built them sort of relatively quickly, so they're kind of being playable. But now we just need to get to the bit where we go through and paint them all. So I quite enjoyed putting it together. It was very much like the other kind of slot sets. It is just kind of slot, and you've not got a lot of options for varying the poses and anything, but they did go together very well, and they're really detailed sculpts, and it was quite enjoyable. But I'm quite glad I only got the one box in the end. I'd ummed and ahed about a second one, but I just one is enough. One is quite enough. Though I have been tempted. I saw some really cheap prices for things like, you can get the Leviathan Termagants for like a tenner on eBay. Sounds very cheap. But I've got enough Termagants already. I don't need any more. Wow, how's that? Certainly in terms of figures, let alone rules, it has been quite a change between first and 10th in 40k. Oh, at first that'd be kind of Rogue Trader era, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think I mentioned the other day, I'm so tempted to buy some Age of Sigma skeleton horde army kind of thing, just for nostalgia's sake. Some of my favourite building memories of the old Citadel miniature-led miniatures, or the pewter stuff, was skeletons. I'm tempted, but I've got so much other stuff to build and paint. Whenever I kind of have it in my shopping cart, it always gets left out. It'll be something for a future project. So I've got some time. Yeah, it's I was never really into Warhammer itself. I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons when I was a lad, until probably about 20 for me. But then kind of work and families and stuff. So I dropped out of building scale models. I dropped out of sort of role playing kind of side of things until I probably started getting back into the kind of scale model hobby about 20 years ago. And I sort of the change from the old absolutely crappy Airfix kits where I used to get gluey fingers, stick them together, you take them apart and you leave all these finger marks all over the place and terrible paint jobs and decals over bare plastic and all that kind of stuff. The world had changed in the modelling since then, and then my lad got into Warhammer 3-4 years ago, just before COVID. And yeah, since then I've been building and painting them, albeit very slowly. And I do enjoy. Oh, I miss them. I do enjoy the painting, the building and the painting of these. I do have a lot of paint left to do. Just got the big tail to do, and then we're done with these layers. Brush another really good clean. Yeah, to be honest, I think a lot of the new Games Workshop sculpts are excellent. They're all fun, detailed, and go together really well. But I am being restrained. I am not buying any more for a little while until we've made some really good progress on the Tyranids. Just got too many of them. not sure if you can really tell the difference between what this shade, the red shade, has done onto the black, but it's made it quite a really dark kind of red, leathery colour. We're good. We're good. Nah, I'm not digging that dry paint out there today. Job for tomorrow. Paint pot closes. We're okay. It oozes, but it closes. Just move me out of the way this time. No mistakes. Let's get that pigment out. Let's get the brush okay. Then we'll move on to the next bit. What I'm going to kind of do next is some greys. I'm going to start with Vallejo black grey. So I'm going to thin it down. I'm going to kind of pull it the last third of the bit of the claws. And certainly towards the end, feather it a little bit, but quite thin. And I'm going to put a dark blue grey for the larger claws, so the tail and the 6 claws on the sides. I'm going to do a little dry brush with pale grey blue. Just catch the absolute edges of those, just to kind of, I suppose, simulate a light catching them and them looking sharp. So that's going to be that. And then we're done, apart from the head. And the head is going to be, the mouth is bubblegum pink. Vallejo pink. But it will be greatly offset by Caribou crimson. I'll be running through that, and a couple of layers of that will really take the pink out of the pink. It should be good. Right, I'm going to go and change water in a minute. So we've got some clean pots to go through. Right. Yeah, you're fine. Pink and purples, they're wonderful colours. If you get the right mix of them, they can be very nice and bright and look really good on a model. The right places, the right spots. It's all colours. All colours were born equal. Equal rights for all colours. It's all good. sorted. Right, back again. Going to start off with the black grey. Give it a good old shake. I'll spin it around a bit. Some water in here. I've just got maybe difficult to tell on the stream, but I've just got an old bit of glass from a kind of picture frame that I just use as my mixing palette. It's a bit tricky to tell just on here, but it's not a wet palette, but it's non-absorbent, so it allows me to mix paints together quite easily. It's also really easy to clean. Just drag a bit of toilet paper across it and it'll just pick up all of that paint. I'm just going to do a few little strokes towards the end of these, because the paint's thinned a bit. It will dry quite dark. Just work our way up on the claws. Boy, does this fella have a lot of bits of claws to go through. Absolutely. I may say I don't really like painting claws. However, this isn't too onerous. It will be over relatively quickly. Each bit doesn't need too much, you just need the last third just touching a little bit just to give them a bit of contrast towards the top of them. It's more a case when they're in really bloody awkward places to paint. So this doesn't, so the approach I take, it doesn't need a lot of paint, it just needs a little bit touching in at the end. When it dries dark, and it just helps break it up. Right, okay, a little bit on the tail. A little bit on the tail, and then double check that I have absolutely done each bit, and I can clean up. And then we'll do the same thing but with a light one, but only on the largest of claws. Do. Toilet paper to just tidy that up. And there we go, all clean. Ta-da! Right. Next one, dark blue grey, Vallejo dark blue grey. Really don't need a lot of this at all. first. Smallest of the drops. I'm not bothering really with too many of the smaller claws for this one, but just a couple of the towards the end of the larger ones. It doesn't need a lot because we'll be catching most of it up with the trowels. Right, that's okay for that one. A bit of a clean. Right, I'm going to give those bits a few minutes to dry before I do dry brushing across it, and just to make sure they're all properly cured off. So I get to do pink instead now. Yay! These are. I start off with a dark. I think it's flat earth, Vallejo flat earth. I then do some texture paint across it. Then I do a wash of Agrex Earthshade, and then I dry brush several layers up of Vallejo kind of sand, light sand colours against it. So it kind of builds up a few. Let me see if I can find the paints. That's purple, it's not that one. Not that one. So I start with a flat earth, get a wash of Agrex Earthshade, and then I dry brush up. I've got cork brown, which I also use for the around the rim, the edge of the base. Desert yellow and dark sand. And what I find with sort of this combination, to get them in the right order, it just kind of gets a really kind of a really bright but dark colour at the same time, if that makes sense. By just kind of dry brushing these lighter across a quite dark one, it looks like I don't. slightly damp, deserty, rocky place, and then I'll put in a couple of wooden corpse grass tufts around just to help decorate it up. So that's where we'll go with those. It takes a little bit of time to do because I also want to use some texture paint on that. The crackle, is it a Grelin Earth, which I'll use to put in there. So I'll put that in. The wash helps tie that into the other colours. So there we go. So what I've done so far with the base is I've some garden stones that I found and washed, and there's some skulls and some where's the texture paint for it if I can find it. Is something else of reach? Okay. I use Armageddon dust and I put this on before I prime, but I also drop in some railroad talus, so you know the kind of stuff you use for ballast and hide the rails. I kind of lob that on and it sticks in to kind of add a bit more volume, I guess, for want of a better word, into this stuff. And then that all gets primed and locked in. And then Tyranids, this bit. So somewhere on Cults or Thingiverse, you can get for free the STL files for these kind of chimneys that come out of the ground. So I downloaded those ages ago, but I printed them really small instead on a 3D printer, and so they come out as just nice little basing details you can pop into any model as well. Because you know it's resin and they print really detailed, so I just end up painting them the same as that. So it's a little extra that I put onto a few of the bases just to give it a little more detail. Right, pink. This will be horrifically bubblegum pink, and I'll be running it all around the mouth part, and it'll be, oh my god, what have I done? But when I run a couple of washes over it with Caribou Crimson, it will really soften it all down and tie it in. So I did check with my lad, he's running these. All of this area in here is going to be pink. It's hard to tell, but the same bit of skin underneath here is going to be pink. All inside pink. Tongue pink. Away we go. I am, however, keeping the gum line same colour as the kind of the flesh, so it's not absolutely all pink, it's just mostly. I'll go and give it a look later on tonight or tomorrow. this camera sucks. Right, slowly starting to see where that's going through. Yeah, I'm not sure pink would be considered particularly grimdark, nor purple, nor neon. It is very, very pink. As I said, it makes me feel, I know I'm not, but it looks like I'm almost making a mistake. It's so pink. Oh. Right, nearly done with all this. I think I've just got the roof of the mouth area to block in now. Oh, and the underside, of course. Just my son asked me to do that. Pink. Right. I missed a little bit just in there. And there we go, bright as pink. We will soften that significantly in a moment because it looks a little out of place now. Let's clean up. Let's get that purple to the side. That. Make sure I clean the brush. Right, that's okay. Alright, for the time being. God, that's bright. It's sitting here. That mouth is bright. I'm going to get a refill as well, so I'll be back in. No, this isn't. This is a artist soap. So it's slightly different. It's only some much more kind of oil-based soap, and it really just lifts pigment out of the brushes really, really well. I just happen to have it in an old earbud container without holes in the bottom, so it doesn't leak out, and it doesn't dry out either. So I used to use a bit of washing up liquid, put it in my palm, and then put the bristles of the brush in there. But it never really lifted all the pigment out. This stuff's awesome. I think this bar was about a £5, and I've had it 2 years, and I've kind of hardly dented it in the top. But what I find is it really takes all that dried pigment out of the bristles really, really well. And also at the end of the session, I usually get a bit of a wet brush, and then I just roll it around on the soap and then shape the brush to leave it off to the side, so the brush just keeps looked after. Brush conditioner stuff, yeah. Better words than I use. Right, I'm just getting a top up. I'll be back in a moment. And the refill is here. Hello Raiders, welcome to Fat Man Paints, or pretty much as it is at the moment, Fat Man Drinks and Paints and talk shite with people on the channel. We can all drink to that one. We're just extolling the values of pink. Penny and Mawloc here will be dealing with that pink and making it something acceptable in a few minutes' time. going to do now, we're going to finish off the close stuff. I'm going to do a quick dry brush of Vallejo pale grey blue. I'm just going to catch the edges of it, sort of almost like simulating a you know, light catching them, but without going anywhere near anything like NMM and non-metallic metallic or anything like that, because it's awesome what people do. But me and my dry brush, I'm happy with what I can get instead. So we just need a little bit of paint. We don't need much of this stuff. Just going to spin around. A fresh bit of I use dry brushing a lot. It's like I said before, it's a technique that I used when I was 12, 10, 40 odd years ago to just bring out detail and model, and it's still a really valid technique now. This one, it's really just very much just catching the edges. I'm just trying to the light detail on that, just to help make them look super sharp. My potato camera is not kind of picking this up, but it's doing the job on the dry brush. It really is just catching those highlights, catching those edges, and giving kind of a highlight that makes it look like it's sharp. Now, if you've built Tyranids before, but I'm not the only one where these things have drawn blood. It's a very, very light dry brush. It's just catching on the edge of these things. Right, that's all it needs. I'm going to work my way up the body again, left side, right side. Yeah, exactly what it is. Dry brush edge highlights. That's exactly what it is. I lack control. It works for me as a technique. Because we've got so many of these bloody claws to go through, it's quite a time efficient way to do it as well for them. And it is a very light dry brush. It really is just catching the edges just very, very lightly. Done on this side in a moment. No worries, I'll ask away. A lot of what I've done here I just kind of accidentally fell into. I think the best thing you can do is have a bit of a practice with some of the little troop guys. So if you've got, I don't know if you've got Leviathan or not, but you know, the Gene Stealers, actually no, probably the Termagants or Hormagaunts are a really good way to start. Try and pick a style, pick what you want to do for the carapace, what colour you want. You know, do you want a reddy black, do you want blue, do you want to kind of go coconut crab or something like that, and just experiment a little bit with the little fellas, and kind of decide on the colours you want. And then, because I kind of work in IT, I've got a spreadsheet. Got lots of spreadsheets. I've got a spreadsheet which goes through each kind of approach that I've got, each colour, what I do with it, so I don't have to remember. I just go and refer to that note every time that I pick up a new model. You know, what is it I start with? What colour is first? What do I do next? What's the order of things? And that way I can be absolutely consistent. And I think, you know, certainly with a horde army like Tyranids, you know, having that consistent army on the field at the end of it is what it's all about. It's about having something that looks the same. So I'm not a great painter. Nothing I do is ever going to get anywhere near an award table, not figure wise. My scale models have won stuff, but in terms of these figures, it's about having something that looks better than your simple three colours, and something that looks nice on the table but isn't too complex, that's really just about simple techniques. About simple techniques that everybody can do, and it's just about process. If you follow the process, you'll have your consistency. And you know, when you've got, like I said, a horde army with a couple of hundred little fellas on there, having them all look the same, you know, it's just awesome. I think it's what makes it look good. So there we go. I think we just got the tail to do, and we'll be done on that one. Then we can deal with that pink. But yeah, there's so many different styles. You can kind of go the box art. You know, you've got Leviathan, Kraken, and all of those other ones, or you know, just pick your own. And certainly with 10th, you're not tied to any particular colour scheme for any particular rule set. But also with Tyranids, I think the law says that they can be pretty much any colour anyway. You know, they're affected by the local flora. So if you want to pick any particular colour, you know, just go for it. For me, what I did when I first picked these up, my lad had a look through a whole bunch of Reddit posts about people who'd been painting Tyranids, and he picked a body colour he liked. He picked a carapace similar style he liked, and we kind of just had a bit of a experimentation on the colours for those, and a little bit of experimentation about style. And so they came up with something that seemed to be mostly repeatable. And we've kind of stuck with it for all the models since, and it's been for us and for me, it's been a good approach. Right, that's kind of good enough. Not so happy with the bigger claws, but certainly for the little ones that's fine. Right, let's give that brush a clean. Let's deal with that pink. The pink will look a little better in a moment or two, trust me. Much more of the inside of a gaping maw. I'm going to pick a slightly larger brush when I'm putting this pink in because I want to get a bit more paint on the brush than what I can on there. So what we're going to use, this one will be fine. So I'm now going to use this Caribou Crimson shade on that pink area of the mouth. I'll probably need to slap it on really quite heavily, and despite protestations from the crowd, I think it just helps settle all this down and just ties it in with the model again, and makes it look a bit more interesting, biological, wet, dangerous. Not sure how if you can see that coming through. It's just really seeping because it's a heavy wash I'm putting on here. Really getting into all the cracks and the details. There we go, starting to get there. Got the long tongue with a better description. Too bad. Let's get that underside done and see if I need to relayer it. Put a little more on. Nah, they're more purple than pink. I think, as I said, if you do something like a horde army, in fact, you know, things like the salamanders were doing, once you've got a process, write it down. And then whenever you need to, it's just there, and you don't need to kind of go, oh, bollocks, what paint did I use last time? Oh, was it this one? Was it this shade? Was it this variety? And you write it down. It's easy to just find a bit of notepad, open notepad on your PC, laptop, just write something down and keep going. It's there as a reference. just really helps. I found it invaluable. I really have. And I have, I'm looking over it now. I have, an area like carapace, like body. I list the paint I use. I list the technique, which is kind of just painted on, whether it's dry brush, whether it's a wash. And then I'll also have notes. This bit is really tricky. You hate doing this bit. Push through, or leave this until after doing something else. Yeah, kind of things like that. So as once I've even got my process down, once I've got the colours, and I still annotate the notes. So each cycle I go through, each time I come and do a model, everything that I pick up from that I do wrong or works well, that I did something different, I'll write it down. I'll refine it. But at the bottom line, the colours remain the same. The approach is pretty similar, and it's really helped. I take a break. I go and play a computer game for a couple of weeks, and then I come back, and here it is. I still know exactly what I've got to do. I've got a list of everything. I don't need to remember it. My brain's like Swiss cheese. I wonder why. So having it written down just really helps me. It really does. I'm just going to put a little more in there. And then I am going to clean the brush. Now we'll work on the teeth. Actually know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to work on the teeth. I'm going to dot in the eyes. Give this a little bit longer to settle. So I don't risk over paint. Right, quite happy with that. Close the paint, can't map it over. I may repeat that often because I may, just once or twice, knock the paint pot over. Because as we know, I may have knocked a Games Workshop paint over more than once. Because we all know the design sucks. And they're as stable as Donald Trump. Right. That's that done. Put that to the side. Right. This fella's got some quite large eyes, so for a lot of the Tyranids I've done, I haven't painted eyes because I just can't see them on the model. But I can see this one, so I'm going to just paint them in. See if I can find a suitable brush for it. Something with a nice point. So when I'm doing the eyes, I'm going to use Vallejo transparent orange. Excuse me. Because it will keep all the definition that's gone in there. Keep all the definition that's gone in there through the various processes, the washes and the dry brushing I've done. It's quite forgiving, and even if it does a bit of an over spray and over paint, that'll just be kind of like a little glow effect under. So we're all good on that one. Yeah, GM paints, Games Workshop paints. I said before, they're easy for me to buy. I can walk into a shop and get them if I need to, which is why I've got a few of them. But their design is awful. Whoa, a bit more than I need. But they are super convenient. To buy, they're not super convenient to use. Probably can't really see that, but it's there, it's painted. Let's do the other side now. Just enough variation. Quite happy with that's going there. Right. There we go, and I'm going to have a go at the teeth next. For these, I'm going to do 2 layers for the teeth. I'm going to do some pallid witch flesh, and then I'm going to just touch off with a little bit of pure, excuse me, bit of pure white just to take them in, because this thing's not a lot of contrast, because we use this as part of the dry brushing on the skin before, so it doesn't give too much contrast, but it just helps base ahead of really putting these. And when I put the white on it, it pops up, but obviously white itself is really too stark, so I kind of do a bit of the combination to get them in. I'm going to stick using my small brush for this. No, I'm not. I'm going to move to a slightly big one at first. There are some tricky teeth to get to. Right, with this, oh, bloody fucking pots. Oh yeah, excuse my French. With this, the teeth are pretty much then the last thing I'm doing on the model itself, and then we're onto the base then. But we'll see. I might be tempted to make some progress on that anyway. You actually, if you can tell, but I might not need too much white on that. I think the contrast there has come out quite nicely. I think it helps that they're larger teeth, so a bit more pigment on them to just help pull them up from the model. I think the last time I did this was probably on a small one, and the contrast between this paint and that's too much on there, between the rest of the skin just wasn't good enough. paint there, so I just used a wet brush to get that paint off. I think I am still going to do a bit of white on these just towards the tips, a bit almost like maybe a bit of a dry brush just to touch the top of the teeth, just to give a bit more of that kind of edge highlighting, but just around the mouth bits of this. I think that might just be the right way to offset this. Certainly the bits that are more at the front look to be needing a little more contrast. I don't know if you can tell. Quite happy with how it's coming along. Just got this side to do, and then I'll figure out whether I'm going to do a bit of red or not. Red? A bit of white or not. Also back to what I said, that my process that I do have is forgiving, because if I went over any of the teeth bits when I did any of those pinks and the washes and that, you know, I just can easily quite paint over them now as I do this colour for the teeth. Right, I'll give that paintbrush a bit of a clean. Right, nearly. Right, I've painted all those teeth white. Well, polyed witch flesh, which is a slightly off-white. I'm quite happy how that's come out. I'm going to get a very, very light dry brush of white. I think very, very light dry brush of white just to offset that. Offset to highlight that. I think that'll work well. There's my white. The glass. Okay, sort of okay with how that's. Well, I'm quite happy with the mouth. Not being so happy with the claws and the pincers, the big ones, but never mind. It is what it is today. Right, so let's just do a little bit of white. Let's do a little bit of a dry brush. I mean, really, really light. Really is going to be a very, very light, probably so light I won't be able to tell. I think it will just so yeah, that's worked really well. It's very, very subtle. That really just has highlighted that mouth a little more. So there we go. Big mouth chompy boy. It's done. Amazingly. Still got the base to go, of course. What are we doing for time? Right. I think I'm going to get the first layer or so of the base done, which is, take all that back. First bit of the base is doing the skulls. Let me remember that. Let me remember my process. So I'm just going to block them in white. We've got a bit of paint wear there left to do, and I'm going to call that quits for tonight. I still have to get up in the morning, get more kid activity. Let's put that off to the side. Make sure all the brushes are clean in the moment. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to, two sets of skulls I've got on here, I'm just going to cover them in white, just make sure that any overpaint that I might have already put in there is just covered over. It'll give the next solid start for the next phase, which will be a wash and, oh my goodness, another dry brush on these things, but that definitely will be tomorrow. I'm going to call it there. Thank you for your company. Hope small parts you've managed to pick up some hints and tips. I'm sure you're a better painter than I am, so anything I can share with you is all awesome, and I'm glad I can help. I'm looking forward at some point to seeing what you can do. There we go. That's me. No, Thank you for joining me. Absolutely, thank you. It's been fun. I've had a good night. I've enjoyed painting. I'm coming back tomorrow. We are going to do a fair bit more on this fella, but only on the base. And I'm then going to do something more exciting as well. So I might start the Screamer Killer, might start the Neuro Tyrant, might do a bit on this horde of Gene Sealers I've got it to the side. But that's tomorrow, not today. Anyway, take care everyone. Have a good night. What's left of it. Enjoy tomorrow. Look after yourselves. Be good, be safe. Don't be dickheads. See you next time.